Block 1. The silence that doesn't belong to childhood. There are silences that comfort, and there are silences that disturb. That morning, the silence of Noah, a 6-year-old boy, didn't feel innocent. It felt ancient. The mother stopped at the living room doorway, holding her breath. Noah was sitting on the cold floor, legs crossed, eyes half closed, hands positioned in a posture no adult in the house could replicate. He wasn't playing. He was meditating. And he meditated with the depth of someone who had done it for an entire lifetime. The father walked down the stairs slowly. "How long has he been like this?" he asked, trying not to sound frightened. "Since he was 4, the mother whispered. The father couldn't hide his discomfort. 4 years. 4 years was far too early for such introspection, too early for so much calm, too early for the darkness inside that silence. But what would truly change everything was yet to happen. It was also at age 4 that Noah said something impossible, sitting in the exact same position. "I remember when I was a monk." The mother laughed. The father froze. And the comment was filed away as childish imagination, until it started coming back. Always with more details, always with more precision, always with more spiritual maturity than any child should ever have. Little by little, Noah began speaking about Buddhist teachings, Tibetan terms, deep concepts about suffering, compassion, and detachment. Sentences that sounded like they were pulled from ancient books, books he had never seen. And in one of those moments, he pronounced with frightening accuracy, "Tenboche." The mother frowned. The father had never heard the word, but Noah repeated it, syllable by syllable, with the patience of a master. "Tenboche, it's where I lived." It was the real name of one of the most famous monasteries in Nepal. A 6-year-old should not know this, but Noah knew. The proof came when Noah revealed the name he claimed to have used in his previous life. The father was about to leave for work when he heard his son's calm, soft voice. "Before I was born here, my name was Rinpoche Dorje." The father froze. Rinpoche Dorje is not a common name. It is a spiritual title. Rinpoche means precious, reserved for enlightened masters, and Dorje is a sacred symbol of strength and spiritual clarity. It wasn't a childish invention. It wasn't a coincidence. It was something much greater. If this story is pulling you in, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapters. After that revelation, everything collapsed. The doubts, the attempts to deny it, the comfort of normalcy, everything was destroyed overnight. The parents began watching Noah closely, and they noticed things that had always been there but were never interpreted as they should have been. The perfect posture, the controlled breathing, the unsettling calm, and the gestures, always delicate, always conscious, always too precise. It seemed as though Noah carried decades inside the fragile body of a child. That night, while the mother folded clothes, Noah walked into the room without making a sound. He sat on the rug and began reciting something he had never said before. Death is not the end. It's the exchange of a tired garment for another that can still learn. The mother dropped the clothes from her hands. The father came running. But Noah continued with the serenity of someone who had crossed an impossible threshold. When I was a monk, my master used to say that fear exists only because we forget who we are. A chill ran down the father's spine. 2 days later, Noah did something that erased any remaining resistance. He was on the porch drawing. The mother smiled at the strokes until she realized they weren't drawings. They were Tibetan symbols, organized, precise, identical to those found in monastic manuscripts. The father rushed toward the boy. "What does this mean, Noah?" "It's the vow I made before I died." The mother covered her mouth. The father stepped back. It wasn't possible. It wasn't normal. It wasn't imagination. It was memory. And then, for the first time, Noah described something he shouldn't remember. The exact moment of his death. With a weak but steady voice, he said, "I died in my sleep, in my room at the monastery. The fire started on the wall. First came the smoke, then the heat, and then the light turning white." The mother cried immediately. The father felt his legs buckle. And Noah continued with an almost painful tranquility. "After that, I came back. I came back." That phrase opened a new abyss inside the parents. An abyss filled with questions no adult could answer. But Noah kept speaking as if everything was simple. As if everything was natural, as if everything, absolutely everything, was just continuity. The parents realized they needed to find the truth. They needed to understand who Noah was before he became Noah. They needed to find out whether this was imagination or whether they were witnessing something impossible. The investigation was about to begin, and what they would find would be even more disturbing. And you, what would you do if your child started remembering a life that doesn't belong to this one? Comment below and share this story to reach more people. Prepare yourself. The next block deepens the mystery in a way you've never seen.
Block 2. The name that couldn't have been invented. When Noah said he had returned, the father felt something break inside him. And that dawn, while the house slept, he quietly opened his laptop and began searching. He wasn't looking for proof. He was looking for refuge, some simple piece of information that would tear down everything his son had said. But what he found was the exact opposite. He searched the name of the monastery, Tengboche. He searched for fires. He searched for deaths. He searched old archives. And then he saw it. The screen lit up like a punch to the stomach. The Tengboche monastery had indeed been destroyed by a fire. And more, the fire had started on the eastern wall, exactly as Noah had described. The father's hands began to tremble. He kept scrolling. And there it was. Among the dead, a spiritual master known as Dorje Rinpoche. The father pushed the chair back. His breath caught. It felt as if his entire body had been shoved out of reality. The name Noah had said, that impossible name, had existed. And not only existed, he had died exactly as Noah described. The father felt a presence behind him. "Daddy, why are you crying?" Noah was standing there, his face calm, far too serene. The father discreetly wiped his tears. "Son, how do you know all this?" Noah simply smiled, a smile far too sad for a child. "I don't know. I remember." And that word, remember, made the impossible inevitable. Then Noah did something the father would never forget. He wrote in Tibetan. The boy walked to the table, grabbed a stack of paper, and began drawing symbols with absurd precision. It was Tibetan writing, symmetrical, well-structured, with firm and fluid strokes, like someone who had written it hundreds of times. The father turned pale. "What are you writing, Noah?" The boy continued, without looking up. "The vow I made before I died." If this story has you hooked, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow the next chapters. When he finished, Noah turned the page. It was a simple mandala, but deeply spiritual, a symbol of transition, something the father had never seen before. The mother froze when she noticed the drawing was divided exactly like Tibetan transitional mandalas. "Where did you learn this?" she asked, her voice shaking. Noah answered calmly, "I didn't learn. I'm just remembering how it was." His naturalness shattered any attempt to deny the impossible. From that day on, the house felt too small for the depth of Noah's words. He began describing things in increasing detail. How the bronze bowls looked, the sound of the bell at dawn, the smell of wet wood in winter, the position of the altar, the direction of the winds. But Noah needed to know more. He needed to confront logic until it broke. That's when he found Dr. Arun Sharma, a respected researcher, a specialist in reincarnation, a scholar of Tibetan culture, a skeptic by nature, and perfect to dismantle the case, or to confirm it. The video call was scheduled for the next day. When Dr. Arun appeared on the screen, his posture was the same as always, methodical, analytical, dry. But the moment Noah entered the frame, joined his hands, and said with formal precision, "Tashi Dalek, Lama." The professor froze. The intonation, the reverence, the meaning. It was a greeting used only among advanced practitioners. It doesn't appear in cartoons, it doesn't appear in games, it doesn't appear anywhere accessible to a Western child. "Where did you learn that?" the professor asked, trying to keep control. "I don't know. I just remember." And the mother squeezed the father's arm. The father swallowed hard. And the professor, that rational man, lost the neutrality in his eyes. "Noah, you said you died in Tengboche. How do you remember that moment?" Noah inhaled slowly. The smoke came first. I felt it in my chest. The fire came after. The wood was cracking, and the bell rang, asking for help. The professor leaned forward. "The records actually say that. The bell rang during the fire." The father almost dropped the phone. Noah had no idea about any of this, but he remembered. "And what happened after?" Dr. Arun asked, his voice now softer. "Then came the light. White, very white. And I left, like I was being pulled by the breath of the world." The mother began to cry. The father covered his mouth, The professor rubbed his face hard, as if trying to push away a wave of disbelief. Children this age don't describe near-death experiences with this level of coherence. But Noah interrupted. It wasn't near death. It was death. A heavy silence fell over the room. And then the boy added, I came back, but I left something unfinished. The father stepped closer. What, son? My farewell. I didn't finish thanking my master. The professor placed a hand on his chest. It was rare to see a scholar so shaken. Noah, what was his name? Your master's name. The boy lifted his gaze. The light in his eyes seemed to carry centuries, and he spoke a name no one there had ever heard, a name that would change the entire investigation of the next block. And you, what would you do if your child said they remembered the exact moment of their own death? Comment and share this story so more people can see it. Prepare yourself. The next block deepens the mystery in a way you have never seen.
Block 3. The name that awakens the past. The silence after Dr. Arun's question seemed to have weight. It wasn't just a pause. It was as if Noah were digging through an ancient chest inside his own soul, searching for something that should never have been forgotten. The father squeezed the mother's arm. The mother could barely breathe, and Noah, slowly, lifted his eyes with the calm of someone who had lived decades, not 6 years. My master's name was Gyatso Norbu. The professor's eyes widened as if he had been struck. The father frowned, not understanding. The mother covered her mouth with her hand. Gyatso Norbu was not a common name. It was the name of a real Tibetan master associated with the monastic lineage of Tengboche, a master who died in the fire. But Noah didn't know that. In fact, there was no way he could know. Dr. Arun took a long breath, trying to regain emotional control. Noah, do you remember his face? The boy nodded slowly. Yes. He had a tired smile, like someone who carries the weight of others. And he called me Dorjela, because he said my heart was light. The professor pressed a hand to his forehead. Impossible. That nickname was real, documented, used only for chosen initiates. Noah had precise knowledge of terms most adults weren't familiar with. There was no way this was coincidence. But what Noah said next made the professor lose his entire academic posture. I remember our last conversation before the fire. The father leaned forward. Conversation? About what? Noah closed his eyes. His voice came out soft, filled with a longing that did not belong to childhood. He told me that attachment is the last chain, that if I felt fear when it was time to leave, I would cling to life and not follow the path. The mother cried silently. The father felt his chest tighten, and Noah continued. He said that when the moment came, I should breathe and let my soul go. If this story is drawing you in, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow the next chapters. Dr. Arun couldn't speak. He rubbed his face, emotional, and took a deep breath, like someone recognizing that they were standing before something they had studied all their life, but never witnessed firsthand. Noah, do you remember the last night? The night of the fire? The boy opened his eyes, and what followed didn't sound like a memory. It sounded like a plunge.
I was sleeping. The wind was cold. The fire started behind the altar. The smoke came first. The wood made a loud noise, like a choked thunder. The mother covered her mouth. The father shut his eyes. Noah continued. I remember the sound. It was beautiful, like it was calling me. The professor took another deep breath. And then, Noah, what happened after you couldn't breathe anymore? The answer was whispered, but so clear it froze the room. Then, I felt I wasn't inside my body anymore. I was floating, and I saw the fire down below. I saw the monks running, and I saw my master kneeling. The father opened his eyes, startled. You saw him after you died? I did. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the sky. I think he was guiding me. The mother sobbed. Dr. Arun placed a hand over his heart, shaken. Noah, did you come back because of him? The boy nodded slowly. Yes, because I didn't finish. I needed to thank him. The father swallowed hard, trying to understand. Thank him for what? For staying with me till the end, for holding my hand before I left. The silence that filled the room was no longer fear. It was reverence, as if, for a moment, everyone there was touching something sacred. And then Noah said something that changed the investigation completely. He called me back because he left a sign, and I came to find it. The professor frowned. A sign? What sign, Noah? The boy looked down as if listening to something distant. A symbol. The symbol of my lineage. I drew it yesterday, but you didn't notice. The father's eyes widened. The mother covered her mouth again. The symbol. That mandala. That drawing Noah made without understanding, or understanding too well. It was real, and it carried a meaning none of them were prepared to face. Inside that symbol lived the greatest secret of Noah's previous life, and it was there that the investigation would take a turn no one expected. And you, what would you do if your child said they returned because they left something unfinished in another life? Comment and share this story so more people can see it. Prepare yourself. The next block deepens the mystery in a way you've never seen. Block 4. The symbol that could not be ignored. The father spent the entire night awake. Noah's drawing, that divided mandala filled with delicate and symmetrical lines, wouldn't leave his mind. It was just a piece of paper. A paper drawn by a child. But there was something inside that symbol, something that felt alive, something that seemed to call. He placed the sheet on the kitchen table, turned on the light, and stared at the drawing like someone trying to decode a long-lost cipher. The mother came down the stairs slowly, her eyes still swollen from crying. You couldn't sleep either? The father just shook his head without looking away from the paper. This means something. I know. It's not just a drawing. I know. There was desperation in their silence, desperation and acceptance. Noah came downstairs a few minutes later. He walked through the kitchen with a calm that didn't belong to his age. He stopped beside his parents, looked at the drawing, and said, "This is the sign I came to find." The father swallowed hard. "Son, what sign is this? What are you talking about?" Noah touched the tip of his fingers to the mandala. It's the symbol of my lineage. My master said that when I returned, I would be guided by it. The mother nearly stumbled backward. Returned from where, Noah? From the silence. Before they could ask more, the father's phone vibrated. It was Dr. Arun. They answered immediately. The professor looked emotional, shaken, unsettled. He was no longer the skeptical academic. He looked like someone haunted by a revelation. "Do you have the drawing?" he asked quickly. "Yes, Noah made it yesterday," the father replied. The professor took a deep breath. "I need to see it." The father brought the camera closer. Dr. Arun went silent for several long seconds, and that silence said everything. This shouldn't be possible. The mother's heartbeat sped up. "Why?" she asked. The professor spoke with a heavy voice. "This mandala is specific to the Gyatso Norbu lineage. It represents the transition between lives. It is used only by direct disciples and by those recognized as reincarnations of masters." The father turned pale. The mother covered her face with both hands, and Noah simply watched with an ancient serenity. Then Noah did something that left the professor completely stunned. The boy stretched his hand over the drawing and began retracing the symbol in the air, tracing invisible lines with ritualistic precision. "I learned this in my last winter at the monastery." His voice had a strange cadence, as if he were reciting something memorized, something sacred. The professor's eyes widened. "Noah, what you're doing, that's a ceremonial gesture. It's used in the farewell ritual of initiates." The mother pressed her hands against her chest. You took part in a ritual like that?" she asked, barely able to speak. Noah nodded. "Yes. It was before the fire. My master said I was ready, but I couldn't finish." The father moved closer, slowly. "Finish what, Noah?" The boy answered, "My passage." If this story is drawing you in, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapters. Dr. Arun ran a hand over his face, completely shaken. "Do you understand what this means?" the professor asked the father. I don't know what to believe anymore." "It means your son is not inventing anything. He is remembering. And if he is remembering, then something bigger is happening." He inhaled deeply, as if preparing to say something far too important. "I need to show this symbol to the monastery. I need to confirm it with the records." The father's eyes widened. You think it'll match something?" The professor answered without hesitation. "I think it already does. I just need proof." But before ending the call, Dr. Arun asked one last question. "You said you returned to find a sign. What exactly is missing for you to complete what you left unfinished?" Noah leaned closer to the drawing, slid his finger across the center of the mandala, and said, "I have to find the rest of the symbol." The father frowned. "The rest?" "Yes, this is only half. The other half stayed there." A chill ran down the mother's spine. "There? Where?" Noah lifted his eyes and answered as if pointing to a fixed point in time. "In my room at the monastery, on the wall, near the bed. I drew it before sleeping on the night of the fire." The professor went silent. It was too specific, too detailed.
and unfortunately, verifiable. That could be in the archives, or in the ruins, or in old photographs. The father felt the world spin, because if that symbol truly existed on the wall of a room in the monastery before the fire, then Noah wasn't telling a story. He was returning to finish a mission. And nothing could be more unsettling than that. And you, what would you do if you discovered your child remembered a hidden symbol from another life? Comment and share this story so more people can see it. Prepare yourself. The next block deepens the mystery in a way you've never seen.
Block 5. The Legacy of the Sign. The sheet with Noah's mandala remained on the table, half of a symbol that seemed to carry centuries within itself. It was as if the drawing breathed, as if something were waiting to be completed. And that wait was about to end. Dr. Arun had spent hours digging through rare archives when his voice broke the silence of the night through the video call. I found it. The parents froze. Noah simply watched, with the calm of someone who already knew. On the screen appeared an old photograph, a simple room inside the Tengboche Monastery, taken shortly before the fire. And behind the bed, in the darkest corner, the other half of the symbol. Small, faded, identical to Noah's lines, and exactly where he said it would be. The mother burst into tears. The father covered his face with both hands. Dr. Arun was speechless. It wasn't imagination. It wasn't coincidence. It was memory, alive, precise, impossible to deny. The father, voice trembling, knelt in front of his son. Noah, tell me the truth. Why did you come back? The boy approached, placed his hand over the mandala and spoke with a maturity far beyond childhood. Because I didn't finish my gratitude. The mother embraced him immediately, the father too, and Noah continued. My master stayed with me until the end. He guided me with love. I needed to thank him before moving on. The parents' tears mixed in the embrace. Dr. Arun wiped his eyes, deeply moved. And now, Noah, what happens now that we've found the complete symbol? The boy looked at the palm of his own hand, as if he could still feel the dust of the old monastery. Now my soul can rest from the memory. I can live the life I have today. The mother sobbed. The father collapsed in silence. It was as if an ancient door had finally been closed. From that day on, Noah continued being a child. He played. He laughed. He ran around the house. But from time to time, when the world became quiet enough, he would sit on the floor, join his hands and close his eyes, not to remember, but to honor. To honor a life that burned in the fire. To honor a master who guided him to his final breath. To honor a cycle that was now complete. And on one of those peaceful nights, Noah said something his parents would never forget. Death isn't the end. It's just a path that changes direction. And you, what would you do if your child remembered a life that ended in fire but was reborn in gratitude? Comment and share this story so more people can see it.